During World War II, a German soldier named Hans found himself separated from his unit, lost and disoriented behind enemy lines. Hans was facing a slow and certain death. The landscape around him was torn apart by explosions, with smoke and debris filling the air. Starving and exhausted, he had no way of knowing how long he'd been wandering through the war-ravaged countryside. One day, as he stumbled across a burned-out village, Hans discovered something he hadn't expected: an abandoned American uniform. It was a risk, but Hans knew it was his only chance for survival. The uniform, worn and torn from battle, was far from pristine, but it would serve its purpose. His heart raced as he pulled it on, tightening the belt and adjusting the jacket. The blue of the American uniform contrasted with the desolation around him, but it was his ticket to blending in. He had to move fast. Once disguised, Hans cautiously made his way toward the nearest American camp. The sounds of war were all around him, but for a moment he could pretend to be someone else, someone who belonged. As he approached the soldiers, he tried to adjust his posture, adopting the swagger of an American soldier, but his accent gave him away. Despite his best attempts, the soldiers, distracted by the chaos of war, didn't question him too much. He introduced himself as Isaac, a soldier from Ohio. They nodded in acceptance, too caught up in the urgency of the moment to notice anything odd. For weeks, Hans lived among the American troops, hiding his true identity with each passing day. The soldiers, preoccupied with the war, accepted him into their ranks without question. He became part of their daily routines, performing the same duties, sharing the same meals, and even laughing along with their jokes. But Hans never fully allowed himself to relax. Deep down, he knew that if anyone ever discovered the truth, he would be shot without hesitation. During this time, Hans befriended Brad, a young American soldier from Washington. Brad was warm and open, always eager to talk about his life back home, his family, his dreams, and his hopes for peace. He didn't know it, but the very man he considered a friend was his enemy, the one soldier he should have feared above all. Despite this, Hans and Brad spent countless hours together, whether it was in the trenches, during rare moments of rest, or even sharing a cigarette by a makeshift campfire. The bond between them grew stronger, with Brad slowly becoming Hans's only true ally, unknowingly accepting him as a fellow soldier. They laughed about life before the war, shared stories of their childhoods, and even discussed their hopes for the future. Though they both knew that such discussions were increasingly unlikely to come true, Hans, for the first time in a long while, began to feel a sense of belonging. The friendship between them was forged in the harshest of circumstances, and both soldiers clung to it as a small but precious escape from the horrors surrounding them. However, the guilt weighed heavily on Hans. He was living a lie, and the day would come when the truth would be revealed. But for now, he pushed those thoughts aside. The war was still raging, and survival was more important than anything else. With each battle they fought side by side, Hans felt himself growing closer to Brad, but he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that his deception would one day come back to haunt him.